My name is McBride, and I am a visual effects art director at Industrial Light and Magic in San Francisco, California. These are some of the movies that I've worked on. I started in the ILM art department as a production assistant in 1999, and I started as an assistant working on Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And then in 2000, I moved up to being a concept artist on AI, artificial intelligence. My first role as an art director was in 2002 for the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, The Curse of the Black Pearl. And then since then, I've worked on a number of films at ILM. Most recently, the films Rango, Pirates of the Caribbean, Stranger Tides, and the upcoming movie Battleship, which I believe just opened here, and The Avengers. Industrial Light and Magic, a little bit about Industrial Light and Magic. Industrial Light and Magic was founded in 1975 by George Lucas for the sole purpose of doing the visual effects for the first Star Wars film. The interesting thing I think about ILM is that before ILM, most visual effects and special effects departments were sort of they were just sort of assembled for one movie at a time, like any other production department. They crew up and they have all these craftsmen, model builders, matte painters, and they'd work on the project doing the visual effects for the duration. And then once it wrapped, they sort of disassembled the department, and everyone sort of went their separate ways and went to work on new projects, new films that were needing visual effects. Sometimes they maybe working in a different discipline, like set building or something like that. But after the success of Star Wars, and knowing that he wanted to make more Star Wars films, George Lucas kept ILM up and running as a standing visual effects facility, so that these team of people who had made such strides and innovations in visual effects for the first Star Wars film, they were able to sort of stay together as a standing visual effects house, and rather than be sort of disassembled, they were able to keep the momentum going on the ideas and innovations and techniques that they had developed working on Star Wars, and they were able to improve on them with each subsequent movie that they worked on, because soon they were doing visual effects for not just the Star Wars films, but for other films as well. ILM was first started in a warehouse facility in Van Nuys, California, and then once they wrapped on Star Wars and they moved on to work on Empire Strikes Back, George Lucas moved the facility up to Marin County in California, and then in 2005, ILM moved to the Presidio in San Francisco, which is where we are now. This is sort of our mascot. We have a Yoda fountain out front. I take my son to school there, and so every morning we get to walk by the Yoda statue, and he gives it a high five. But it's really a great experience being sort of surrounded by the props and the matte paintings and all the artistry created by all the people that you idolized growing up. ILM is, when I was growing up, ILM was responsible for some of the most amazing imagery that I had ever seen on screen. So, and it has such a history of innovation that you go to work every day and you're really inspired by all the work that you see around you, that you grew up on. But at the same time, it kind of it's a little intimidating too. Because you're like, all right, I got to keep up. I got to keep up with all the talents around me, and keep trying to push the push the envelope and raise the bar. This one scares my son. We're actually located right near the bay, which was extremely handy on the Pirates of the Caribbean films, because I was able to kind of run out to the beach and photograph a lot of reference for Davy Jones and his Curse crew, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So the current projects that we're working on are, like I said, Battleship for Peter Berg, which is opening, and as well as Avengers, which is based on the Marvel comic books, the team of Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, and Captain America, for director Joss Whedon, as well as Pacific Rim for the amazingly visionary genius Guillermo del Toro, and G.I. Joe Retaliation. We have between around 500 and 600 people working at ILM, depending on how many projects we're working on and what phase of production they're in. The work we do ranges from very technical disciplines to very abstract and creative work. But we're all very, very passionate about, ultimately our goal is to put the most visually amazing imagery on the screen that's also in service of the story. My role is as a visual effects art director, and generally what that means is I'm responsible for generating artwork to serve as a visual guide or a look target for the visual effects team. And basically creating artwork. In the beginning, that entails creating artwork to show the director. And this type of artwork can depend on what stage of production or pre-production the film is in. But we usually start by meeting with the director and reading through the script and really trying to get inside the head of the director to understand what their vision is, and so that we can stay the most consistent to their visual aesthetic, and also try and understand the story that they're trying to tell, so that our work can best represent it on the screen. So we go through and we highlight specific parts of a script that outlines a visual effect, maybe a creature, a spaceship, an energy effect, just trying to get the flavor of what the movie entails. Our role is also to be a creative lead, to try and convey very clear ideas throughout the shot production. Once we start to build digital assets of creatures and spaceships and things like that, our role is to provide the crew with a lot of photo reference and additional support artwork as they start to refine the design and make it more detailed, flesh it out with layers and layers of detail so that it can be as realistic as possible on screen. A lot of that involves grabbing a lot of photo or video reference. I find that whenever you're sort of coming up against a challenging design problem, we always turn to what kind of video or photo reference do we have of that when it exists in the natural world. Whenever you're tasked with a challenging design problem, chances are either natural evolution or industrial evolution has already sort of figured it out in some form or another for you. So, whether it's for a machine or a robot, you go look at photo reference of giant earth movers, backhoes, and bulldozers, just to see what type of language and functionality they have that you can adopt and add more realism to the design you're trying to put up on screen. Ultimately, we're sort of a hand or a sketch pad for the director and the visual effects supervisor to illustrate their ideas. We design with both concept and execution in mind, without compromising the ideas and in service of the story. Visual effects design can sort of be broken down into a couple of different categories that I'm going to talk about. You have